America at War. Reporting from NBC News headquarters in New York, here is Mary Alice Williams.
Important meetings tonight as the war goes on. One at the United Nations. The Security Council is meeting in closed session at this hour on a new Soviet peace proposal that looks very much like the old one rejected by the Allies before the start of the ground war. About 5 hours ago, Baghdad radio reported Saddam Hussein had ordered his troops to withdraw from Kuwait, but no one, including the Iraqi ambassador to the United States or United Nations, has heard officially from Saddam. In any case, the White House has said no offer to withdraw is good enough unless Saddam Hussein agrees to adhere to all 12 United Nations resolutions now standing against him. White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater said earlier that the war goes on, and so it does. Here is Marlin Fitzwater.
We continue to prosecute the war. We have heard no reason to change that. And because there is a war on, our first concern must be the safety and security of the United States and coalition forces. We don't know whether this most recent claim about Iraqi withdrawal is genuine. We have no evidence to suggest the Iraqi army is withdrawing. In fact, Iraqi units are continuing to fight. Moreover, we remember when Saddam Hussein's tanks pretended to surrender at Kafshi, only to turn and fire. We remember the Scud attacks today and Saddam's many broken promises of the past. There are at least an additional 22 dead Americans tonight who offer silent testimony to the intentions of Saddam Hussein. The statement out of Baghdad today says that Saddam Hussein's forces will fight their way out while retreating. We will not attack unarmed soldiers in retreat, but we will consider retreating combat units as a movement of war. The only way Saddam Hussein can persuade the coalition of the seriousness of his intentions would be for him personally and publicly to agree to the terms of the proposal we issued on February 22. And because the announcement from Baghdad referred to the Soviet initiative, he must personally and publicly accept explicitly all relevant UN Security Council resolutions, including especially UN Security Council Resolution 662, which calls for Iraqi rescission of its purported annexation of Kuwait, and UN Security Council Resolution 674, which calls for Iraqi compensation to Kuwait and others. That's the end of the statement. I might just add that the President met with his national security advisors for approximately an hour and 15 minutes this evening to consider this matter, and the President has returned to his residence. Wyatt?
Marlin, any word from Mikhail Gorbachev? Has he called the President and personally asked for a ceasefire?
We've not had any contact with President Gorbachev, although we have had contact with Soviet officials here in their embassy.
The nature of which
Helen?
is what, please? Marlin, the nature of which is what?
To simply inform them of our statement and to discuss the situation as it exists. Helen?
Do you consider the 12 UN resolutions and your February 22 plan as two separate entities that both have to be accepted?
As we explained on Friday, the terms of the February 22 plan, that's the one we disclosed on Friday, was a way of setting criteria for judging the 12 UN resolutions. So it is our judgment that he must still comply with the 12 UN resolutions, and the terms that set forth Friday simply give those detail.
Were those approved by the UN, the criteria, the terms of this whole?
They are the coalition's terms for describing and explaining the UN Security Council resolutions. Brett?
You have now added the condition that Saddam must do this personally. Why have you added that?
We have added this because of the nature of the Baghdad radio statement today, because of the many broken promises of Saddam Hussein, because he has not responded today concerning this withdrawal either directly to us or to the United Nations, and yet he tries or he purports to be interested in a withdrawal. And our attitude is, if that is the case, we ask him to be upfront publicly and let the whole world know exactly what his intentions are. Pascal?
What do you think Saddam Hussein is trying to do by announcing such a withdrawal?
We have no way of judging his motives. Michael?
As we understand it, the UN Security Council is meeting now, or will be meeting shortly. And you're out here rejecting this Baghdad radio offer. What do you know about what they're going to be doing in that meeting that leads you to believe you can come out now and reject it?
We aren't rejecting anything. We don't know that there is a genuine offer. We see no evidence of it on the ground. We have no reason to believe the radio report. What we are saying is we hope it's true. We want him to get out, and this is a way to do it. John?
Marlon, if the Iraq's UN ambassador accepts the resolution calling for withdrawal from Kuwait and announces an Iraqi withdrawal from Kuwait, will the U.S. continue to attack?
The ground rules are very clear here. We are not going to attack retreating forces. They should lay down their arms and leave, and they wouldn't have to worry about that. But if they're moving as a combat units, they are still subject to the rules of war. Karen?
Yes. Can you tell us whether there's been any sign of Iraqi troops withdrawing, either with their weapons or without them?
We have no indication that there's any withdrawal taking place. John?
Two things about this withdrawal. It sounds like, one, what you're concerned about is these people are possibly taking their weapons back into Iraq and being a threat from Iraq. And two, how will these people retreat without their weapons? Some of these people would be in tanks. That's how they travel, right?
Laying down their arms is simply, they simply walk out. The fact is the United States has enormous numbers of troops in that area. The coalition forces are spread throughout the country and throughout Kuwait, and we cannot sacrifice the safety of coalition forces by allowing them to have their weapons and, in effect, fight their way out, whatever that means.
You literally mean walk? You're talking about armored personnel carriers.
Well, I don't think it needs a definition. I think lay down your arms is pretty clear. Patrick?
Marlon, how close are we to winning this war so that any UN action might be considered moot?
Well, we are making good progress, but we certainly could not predict an end of the war at this time. Final question, Tom.
In any fashion stalling the UN action, no, Marlon, trying to see if we can win a decisive victory?
No, the UN, as I understand it, has scheduled an informal meeting for later tonight. We simply want them to know our feelings and a position on this matter as they deliberate this evening. Tom?
What do you make of this new Soviet proposal? Did you know it was coming? And is it helpful to the coalition's aims for this to come up at this time?
I'm not aware of a new Soviet proposal.
Well, the Soviets asked the Security Council tonight to look at the proposal.
Well, you mean they proposed a meeting? That's fine, sure.
Do you feel it's helpful at this point for the Soviet Union to continue to press this proposal of theirs?
We think the Soviet Union has been helpful in this process. They have been trying to get a withdrawal. They've been trying to get Saddam Hussein to get out of Kuwait according to the UN resolutions. And in every discussion that President Gorbachev has had with us, he has reasserted his commitment to the UN resolutions. And certainly having the UN review this in any fashion is acceptable with us. That, after all, we are responding to UN resolutions. And tonight's statement would be our position going into those discussions. And this way everyone would know exactly how we feel. Dan, final question.
Marlon, is it now the position of the Allies that you all will settle for nothing less than the total humiliation of Saddam Hussein?
No, we'll settle for nothing less than full compliance with the UN resolutions. Thank you very much.
Marlon, isn't this a preemptive strike?
Marlon Fitzwater, the president's press spokesman who responded tonight to the offer from Saddam Hussein via Baghdad radio that his troops would be withdrawing from Kuwait in compliance with the Soviet peace plan, that it is plainly unacceptable to the President of the United States, who met for more than an hour with his national security advisors. He says that Saddam Hussein himself must announce complete compliance with the alliance plan that was announced last week. That means acceptance of all the UN resolutions. It means as well that if the Iraqi troops are going to leave Kuwait, they must lay down their arms and start walking north. Those are the conditions that were outlined here tonight by Marlon Fitzwater. I'm Tom Brokaw in Saudi Arabia. We'll be back here at 11:30 Eastern Time tonight with a special report on these rapid developments in the Persian Gulf. We'll see you then.
This has been an NBC News special report.